Someone lived in that attic for days, watching this family, listening to them talk, eat, sleep, and not one of them ever knew. By the time anyone found out what happened, the killer was long gone and had left behind almost nothing except a mystery that's outlasted everyone who worked the case. On the evening of March 31st, 1922, 6 people were murdered on a small farm in Bavaria, Germany, in a homestead known as Hinterkaifeck. The victims were the farm's owner, Andreas Gruber, his wife Tsetsi Lia, their widowed daughter, Victor Ia Gabriel, her 2 young children, and a maid who had started the job that same day. In the weeks before the murders, strange things had already been happening on the farm. The family's previous maid had quit months earlier, telling neighbors she believed the house was haunted after hearing footsteps in the attic that no one could explain. Andreas found a newspaper on the property that didn't belong to anyone in the household, and discovered footprints in the snow leading from the nearby woods straight to the farm's machine room, where the lock had been broken. There were no footprints leading back out. Andreas mentioned the footprints to neighbors. He never reported them to police. On April 4th, neighbors grew concerned when no one from the farm had been seen in days. A small group went to check and found the 4 adults murdered in the barn, their bodies stacked and covered with hay. Inside the farmhouse, they found the 2 children, killed separately. An autopsy determined the cause of death for all 6 victims was blunt force trauma from a single farm tool, a type of pickaxe called a mattock, which was later found hidden in the barn's loft. Here's the detail that still unsettles investigators to this day. Based on the state of the bodies and food that had clearly been prepared and eaten in the farmhouse after the murders, police concluded the killer had stayed on the property for several days afterward, feeding the family's livestock and living inside the house with 6 bodies just outside. This is the point where a strange local killing became one of the coldest cases in German history. Investigators questioned more than 100 people over the following years. One neighbor, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, was interviewed repeatedly and considered a leading suspect for decades. He had a prior relationship with the victim's daughter, and inconsistencies in his statements raised suspicion. But no physical evidence ever tied him or anyone else definitively to the crime, and he was never charged. The case was formally reopened by Bavarian police in 2007, using modern forensic techniques that didn't exist in 1922. Investigators exhumed remains and re-examined the original evidence. It changed almost nothing. No conclusive new leads emerged, and in 2014 the case was closed again, officially unsolved. More than 100 years later, we know exactly what was done to this family, and almost exactly how the killer must have moved through their final days, watching from that attic. What we still don't know is who was up there, or why they chose to stay so long after it was over.